This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Louis Ezekiel, and joining me tonight, my pal and yours, Elizabeth. How are you doing this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back on a Tuesday. I feel like we're back in our zone. I do have to laugh, though, because for those watching us, you've got your toque on. I'm in my hoodie. I got a blanket. It's clearly cold.
Yeah, definitely. I am recording in my basement office, which we set up during COVID, which is nice to have, but it's a little chilly down here. School has been canceled Monday and Tuesday. It is canceled for tomorrow as well because of wind chill in the morning. Too cold for people to be out there on the bus. I wish my opponent's shooting was as cold as it is outside. Last I checked, he had 7 goals on 25 shots. So I am facing down just an absolute shooting bender here in my match this week. But, at least I'm getting to enjoy most of it from the comfort of my own home.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's not so bad. We took the boys skating today. It was a lot of fun. But we got to get into our episode here. We do not want to, I don't want to make any promises here early in the show before we find out how long it's really going to be. But suffice to say, Thursday was a bit of a long shift. So let's let you jump into the first big news of the day. People said it would never happen to a guy with 97 on the back of his jersey, but we got something new. You see sometimes you watch enough hockey, you'll see things that you can't believe happen.
Absolutely. Our chat was going nuts with this on Saturday night. We were all watching the Vancouver and Edmonton game, and it kind of turned into a wild evening as things progressed in the last few minutes of the game there. And what that turned into is a 3-game suspension for both McDavid and Myers after cross-checks to the face within seconds of each other, truly, if you're watching the game. And there's been a lot of takes on whether the cross-checking to the face was warranted or not. I won't go into that because I think we can all agree it's not great. Nobody wants to take a hit to the face. McDavid was clearly heated and in the moment, and I think we could probably say the same for Myers, although I think everybody's focus in the moment was on what was going on with McDavid because, like you said, that 97, everybody's watching him. More importantly, our fantasy impacts. This is obviously going to hurt our McDavid owners a lot more than our Meyer owners. I personally had picked him up and streamed him in before the game, and I had no problem dropping him when I realized there was going to be a suspension coming. McDavid owners, on the other hand, probably not going to drop him. If somebody does in your league, you all know what to do. Pick him up. Who's this actually going to benefit? I think if we check into our Oilers history, that's going to tell us we're going to see a little bit more Hyman, Draisaitl, Nuge. But I think the more interesting ones for us right now are probably the Podkolzin and Arvidsson, who are going on that top line, seeing more time with Draisaitl, seeing a little bit of power play time. I think that's where the excitement truly lies. Vancouver, not really a lot to talk about there of who might come in with Myers being out. I think we'll see maybe a little bit more Susie, Hirona matchup there. We've got Hughes playing with Friedman, but I don't think I'd be jumping to add him this week. Vancouver plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Those are already busy days, and we are talking defenseman here, so not a lot of points to be gained there. So if you do drop him, I'd probably look at picking somebody else up that you can fit in on some of those off days.
Yeah, the McDavid-Draisaitl relationship is in some ways like the Crosby-Malkin relationship, right? When you see that big top line guy go down, usually you see the secondary guy really pick it up. I've been with Elon. I went and grabbed Arvidsson. I actually had held him through last week, and he had that brief little window of injury, and I tried to do a little IR trickery, but in the end, I had to drop him to try to save my week, but he is back on my lineup. The big reason I think Arvidsson is the beneficiary here is that he does get that power play 1 slot. I think he's going to be a nice add for those 3 games during the week if you can squeeze him in. And honestly, I think there are probably a lot of lineups where he belongs maybe above a player or 2 that you might have now. That was one reason I was comfortable grabbing him because, maybe he is playing on those busy days, but I think there are guys on those busy days that I can afford to bench when I would like to have someone on that top power play, even a McDavid-less power play. So a nice opportunity there for him. Speaking of players getting nice opportunities, on Thursday, we spent some time talking about how valuable it can be to get a cheap piece that has exposure to some really good players. And we're going to take a little bit of a victory lap here on Darren Raddysh, but we also want to talk about some new lines in Tampa that are giving some players a little bit more access to that top end talent and might make them interesting. But we'll start with Raddysh. I mentioned I grabbed him before Thursday when those new power play lines were announced. If you've had him for those full 4 games, you've got 6 points to go with 11 shots, 5 hits, and 3 blocks. He is playing here on Tuesday night, as are all of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So obviously those stats may end up a little out of date. Even if he doesn't score, if you've had him for the last couple games, you're not losing any sleep over it. He had a goal and assist in each of the last 2 games. He went up from 1% owned on Yahoo to 22% yesterday. Just the thing I worry about is some of those folks may have been late since he has nothing on the scoreboard so far. Sometimes you just got to strike while the iron is hot rather than waiting and seeing. And finding a good balance between those two, I think, is such a critical skill in fantasy hockey. It is not easy. I definitely waited too long on some guys. I didn't pick up Roslovic when he was doing well. I finally did pick him up, and then he went on that long streak, and then I held him for too long. Others I cut too early when Eklund was down on the 3rd line and off the top power play, and now he's getting frequent access to Celebrini, and it's looking really good. So a nice spot for Raddysh, and I think, even if he doesn't continue at this torrid, 1.5 points per game pace, I think he is a nice option for you if you're looking for somebody to fill in on defense. 60% power play time on ice over the last 3 games, and I think he's worth a hold as long as he keeps that spot. Obviously, game day tweets, Shams and Elon's site will be your friend in that regard. We just saw lines shaken up in general in Tampa. A top line is Hagel, Cirelli, and Kucherov. Cirelli has scored. Second line, Gensel, Point, and Eyssimont. Eyssimont is the one who scored. And the third line is Gergensons, Paul, and Geeky. I only bring them up because, Paul is down there. And he was a guy that's a little bit of a tough deployment for him because he was flipped to the point line last night, Monday night, mid-game, and scored. And now he's down on that third line and has not been productive so far on Tuesday night. But how long those are going to stick, I think is a good question. But it does mean Eyssimont is getting some really nice access to high quality players in Point and Gensel that he wasn't getting before. He obviously made the most of it here. So if he's still in that spot for the next game and you've got space for a winger, that might be a guy I would take a look at.
Yeah, we're looking at this Tampa line. I think we said it last week that we didn't trust the lines and we thought they might get shaken up a little bit. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think like you said, it's interesting to see where everybody's going right now. It's interesting to get on that hot hand. And you made a good point. It's really hard to know what the future holds. Sometimes we grab players at the end of a hot streak and it feels like we missed it. Sometimes we're grabbing them and it's just starting and it's great and you don't want to drop them even though you know you should. So yeah, it's fantasy hockey. Those are the ups and downs and you've just got to play the cards that are dealt to you.
You are exactly right. And we'll have a lot more to talk about with injuries and outjuries and some hot and cold streaks on the other side. We got to take a quick break. You're listening to Short Shifts.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Or hey, you may be interested in hockey. I'm taking a look now at some hockey futures. The odds for the Vezina Trophy are crazy. They've got Connor Hellebuck minus 2,000. That's like basically they think Connor Hellebuck's going to run away with this. Of course, odds subject to change. The next lowest odds on the list right now, Logan Thompson. Wasn't expecting to see his name there. I guess Allmark won it a couple years ago in a 50-50 tandem. Anyways, it's fun. You can check it out. The odds for all the awards for the NHL, who's going to win the cup. You can bet on basically anything over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And by the way, new DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to Short Shifts. And hey, sometimes you get some interesting things when you take a 3-minute break there. And Draisaitl has scored his 31st goal of the season just 3 minutes into their game with Washington. Assist from Darnell Nurse and Vasily Podkolzin. So Podkolzin not on power play 1, but maybe still a decent option if he's going to be playing with Draisaitl. And Draisaitl does his thing. And it seems like it has already taken place. Let's jump into some injuries and outjuries. And why don't you start us off with a big one on the Islanders' blue line? Tell us what's up with Noah Dobson.
That's a big hit for the Islanders. Noah Dobson's got a lower body injury. As of Tuesday, there's no timeline for his return from the team. This could be precautionary for them. They don't play again until Friday. But whenever we're hearing things like we don't have a timeline, it's a little suspect, and I'd be a little bit worried. He has 24 points in 46 games this season, so he's definitely having a good year. And people are probably holding him and have been holding him. I know I personally just stashed him in my IR. That would be my advice to anybody who's got him and has IR room. This is creating an opening on Power Play 1, though, which does make for interesting talk again. We've been talking a lot about Power Play 1s in the last few weeks, and that's because we're seeing a lot of changes. So in the game, Pelech took it over, but I think it does lead to the question of, is it his, or do we see potentially Pulock get the pull up to PP1? He's currently playing on power play 2, but I think the opportunity is there for him to move up as well. Now, I will preface this with Pulock is on a bit of a cold streak. He's only had 1 point in his last 6 games, 16 points on the season, and he's not a big hitter, so it's not a super interesting pickup if you are looking. Same thing over with Pelech, though. He's 9 points in 26 games this season. He will get you a few more peripherals, I feel, but it's not going to be a high point night if he's not getting any points for you in a cupful. At least do check the other stats if you're playing in a league that has a lot of bangers.
Yeah, I think you got the right idea. And, this is my theory of the case anyway. I think because Pulock was already the PP2 guy, like, why not leave him there? He's practicing that spot. No reason to disorganize both your top power play and your second. I think with a little bit of practice time, we could see Pulock take that spot. Again, obviously, Game Day Tweets is going to be your friend in that regard. But because Pulock has quarterbacked that power play before, I think it does make a lot of sense for him to end up in that spot when it's not, a mid-game adjustment. And we have seen some other examples of that where, someone goes out and rather than just promoting the power play 2 guy, you promote somebody else. To create maybe a little bit less chaos. So that's what I would like to see. And I just wanted to give a shout out. Ethan Sears, who used to write for the Michigan Daily and was a Michigan sports guy, is one of the best beat writers for the Islanders. So appreciate him very much. He's a good guy. All right, let's jump into another potential outjury here. This is an interesting one. John Klingberg is set to join the Oilers next week. He's been out since last season while undergoing hip resurfacing surgery. You may remember it from such players as Patrick Kane, who was the first guy to really come back to it at full-on NHL level. And then a lot of other people who were never really able to get back into the league afterwards. He signed with the Oilers. Knoblauch says he's at least a week away from joining the team. This is an interesting opportunity. Like, this is not, adding someone with a ton of defensive pedigree. We know who John Klingberg is, or at least who he was and what his skills were. So unless hip resurfacing has come with a lot of defensive zone responsibility along with it, I don't necessarily see him. You add this guy to add some offense, to add some pop to your blue line. So I wonder if that maybe means that a guy like Mattias Ekholm might take a step back offensively to be a little bit more defensively responsible. He's been a nice blend of offense and defense, and at times has been rosterable in fantasy. But the arrival of Klingberg, if he is successful and if he sticks, and obviously those are both humongous ifs, I think that you may see a little bit of a hit to a guy like Ekholm. I don't think it's going to affect the top power play at all. I think I would still definitely rather have a guy like Raddysh, who, seems to have a spot in the lineup right now, versus a relative post-surgery unknown without a real defined place in the lineup. But you had mentioned you've already seen someone run out and grab him, right?
I saw somebody grab him instantly, and I was sure it was going to be in my home league. I feel like everybody knows Oilers fan here, but it wasn't actually. It was in one of my bigger leagues, and I was shocked that somebody just rushed out and grabbed him, not knowing who he's going to be paired with, not knowing what his ice time is going to look like, how he's going to perform after hip surgery. I was a little surprised. I'd be waiting personally. I do have some concerns. We've seen a lot of shakeup on the Oilers blue line there. We've seen even Darnell Nurse playing on both sides of the ice at times, going back and forth. I just would be a little cautious if you are somebody who's interested in grabbing him and picking him up about where he lands in the mix here. There's been a lot of shifting and changing mid-game, pre-game with this group, and I just wouldn't be convinced that he's guaranteed a top pairing or anything like that.
All right, so it sounds like we're on the same page there. Interesting potential. Obviously, a guy who's been quite effective offensively at times, but this is a big surgery to come back from. Again, we've just kind of got that one example of a really successful return at something approximating what he had. I will say, Jordan, Tier 1, longtime Tier 1 manager, Oilers fan, essentially said, look, at the price that they're paying, if there's even a 10% chance of him doing what he used to do, it's worth a shot. So I like that way of thinking of it. Fantasy wise, though, I think I'm with you. Stay away while we can. All right, we got another pending outjury. I like when we mostly have, some interesting outjury stuff to talk about. Take us out to Anaheim, please. Tell us about their latest outjury instances.
Yes, exciting news out in Anaheim tonight. We've got Trevor Zegras returning to action on this Tuesday night. He's been out since December 11th, recovering from a torn meniscus. And I think this is going to be a nice restart for him. He's had 10 points in 24 games this season. He was pointless in his last 3 before the injury. And I just think it's a good time to restart, reset, refresh. It's the new year. I am excited for him. He's jumping back on the line, second line with Killorn and Karlsson, and he was practicing on the power play with Karlsson, Gauthier, Killorn, and Zellweger. And I just like this mix-up of people. I feel like these are guys who have been having good hot streaks, good moments this year. And I think together, maybe they can make some magic happen, go from that slow start to this refreshed, ready to go team. And I'm excited to see what they do personally. How about you, Louis?
Yeah, I admit that I have a bit of a Ducks blind spot here this season, despite their obviously oftentimes favorable schedule. Didn't end up with any Ducks on my roster, and I've been up against them from time to time. Troy Terry really went bananas on me, and then went and had a baby the next week. So I could have used that baby coming a bit earlier here, but what are you going to do? I think it's great to have Zegras back. I think over the last couple years, we've sort of adjusted our thinking about him from sort of our expectations for how high his ceiling might be. But yeah, I think that line with Killorn and Karlsson, I definitely like him being out there with Karlsson. That's a decent power play group. But it's the Ducks. They're not scoring much this season. If it was a higher caliber offense, he would just have more opportunities to be out there. And when your best options, other than Terry are these guys that he's lining up with, Killorn and Karlsson, that does mean that you're going to be limited offensively a bit. So excited to have him back. I think I'm sure a lot of people have him on IR. I think there are probably some lower end players on your roster that might be worth cutting, especially if they've been on a cold streak. We'll talk about a couple of those guys coming up, but not super excited for Zegras, but could really provide a little more oomph for a pretty anemic Anaheim offense so far. One other guy who is not back, but may be back soon, kind of in the John Klingberg category, is Drew Doughty, injured during the I believe the first preseason game, like a minute in, right after I had spent a nice draft pick on him. Not that I'm bitter, but anyway, great news because Doughty is traveling with the Kings on the upcoming road trip. Which means he may get an opportunity to get in the lineup here. And although there was definitely some initial concern among Doughty drafters that, they were leaving this option open for him to get pipped by Brandt Clark. Clark had some success early on, but I don't think he's done enough to show that he can be power play 1 quarterback. In fact, Jordan Spence over the last several games has been the power play 1 guy. I don't think anyone thinks that he's going to stay there ahead of Drew Doughty. So I think, I hope that he will come right back into that power play 1 spot. If he is, back in his regular form. Yeah, the years catch up with everybody, but he's a pretty reliable guy. Talked to some of the Kings fans in the Discord who said, Spence, Clark, they're not capable of creating the kind of space that Doughty is able to. So that could open things up a bit for the Kings power play, which I think is really good, and just the offense more generally. And hopefully will be good news for Kings goalies as well. So this could be, the kind of addition that really kind of helps everybody. I don't think there are a ton of people who are hanging on to Jordan Spence and thinking about how great it was going to be. But now that Doughty's back, drat, we got to drop him back down. Like, this is an opportunity, I think, for just about everybody who's going to be on the ice that is power or fantasy relevant, I should say. To see some incremental improvement. So looking forward to see Doughty hit the ice in black and silver. All right. And, we've been talking about some of these hot and cold streaks. Let's focus on a few players in particular and think about what we may want or need to do with them. We're going to start with a big one. We have a pretty huge cold streak for somebody who is being drafted in the late first round in the cupful, depending on league size, first and second round in other places, especially for leagues that aren't just points only, that count shots and hits, Brady Tkachuk is on a pretty monumental cold streak right now. 0 points in the last 8 games. He's still seeing majority power play time. He's still shooting like crazy, 27 shots over that stretch. So over 3 shots a game. But it's a really brutal stretch for anyone who picked him up in round 1. It is like having, a suspended McDavid or an injured Kaprizov, except that he's still filling up, that slot on your lineup. So in some ways it's been worse. Obviously those shots and hits are still going to be pretty valuable. He's had games where he's earned over what he would get for scoring a goal and Tkachuk scoring from them, but you wanted him to be adding the scoring in addition to those peripherals. I wonder if this might be the time to start reaching out with your Kempes, your Caulfields, your Boldies, guys who are picked, maybe in the second or even the third round, but who have been really hitting their stride and finding a lot of success lately. I feel very confident that Brady is going to be able to rebound, at least in the goal scoring. Nobody is shooting more than Brady on a per game basis among regular NHLers, except David Pastrnak. He's easily the best shot on the team there. So of course he's going to get tons of shots when he is the focus of the whole focus of the offense there. But yeah, it's just been a pretty rough run for Tkachuk, and with luck we'll see things rebound in the right direction. But yeah, it's been a tough go.
Yeah, this has been a rough go for him, and I will give everybody who's looking to try to steal him the clip that they're looking for here. It's his lowest point per game average in the last few years. You actually have to go back to his 2020-2021 season to see a lower point per game average from him. So things are not going great, even though, like you said, the shooting is there. Now, this is the part you don't want to clip for your opponent. Yes, the shooting is there. It will come. The goals will come. You can only shoot so many times and miss. You're a professional hockey player. I do think he's going to have a bounce back. So I'm kind of with you on this idea of it's going to turn around, but when will it turn around? And could you maybe buy into that by selling off someone you grabbed in the second or third round? I think that's a really interesting play, and I would definitely be trying it before everybody has heard us give out this great advice.
And, we should mention, we may be heading on to yet another game to add to that list. I believe it is 5-0 Rangers over Ottawa right now. We saw Levi Merrilainen get pulled, so the shine has come off him quite a little bit there. I think it's the rough go continues here, and those opportunities may be available if you're willing to make a run like that. Just remember, everybody values the players on their roster more than the players not on their roster. So you may have to mention that bit about the lowest points per game output, talk about the 9-game pointless stretch, whatever you may need to do to kind of convince your person. But, if I'm looking at Matt Boldy as an option, maybe I'm thinking about it a little bit, the way he's been scoring, but those peripherals make it tough. Certainly for the Tkachuk owners, hang in there. I'm not telling you to sell him, but I am telling people to maybe take a shot at trying to buy him. I'm a believer still. All right, so no luck for the Bradys, but the Braydens have been having a decent run here. Tell us about our next hot streak.
Yes, hot streak time, because why not? Cold and hot, right? Let's talk about Brayden Schenn, though, because this is exciting for me because he is on the line with Holloway, and you've all heard me talk about Holloway all season. Everybody's probably sick of it, and I don't care because I'm the one with the mic, and you guys have to hear me talk about how much I like him.
That's the power.
That is the power of the mic, you guys. All right. So Brayden Schenn, though, he has been doing really good. His last 4 games, he's had 3 goals, 2 assists, 6 shots, 14 hits in that period. So he's even bringing in the peripherals for you if you're looking for them. Going out a little bit further, let's look at his last 11 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 21 shots on goal, 26 hits over that period. He is producing both points and peripherals for you. So this is definitely someone on a very nice hot streak. I would be very interested in having him if I didn't already. And he seems to be doing really good with his line mates. I mean, he's playing with Cairo and Holloway at even strength. He's playing on the power play. And I think that it's looking really good for the St. Louis team. I also have to admit that I finally dropped Neighbors, and then he started doing well. So hopefully not everybody followed suit with me and dropped him, because he is also doing a little bit better than what we said just days ago on Thursday when I asked you for permission to drop him.
Well, all we do is work with the information that is available to us in the moment, right? We are not trying to, we don't always make the right choice, but I like to say we always try to make the correct choice, right? Based on the evidence, we're making the smart choice, the correct choice, but sometimes the smart choice doesn't end up being the right choice. But yeah, we did call Neighbors a snoozer. He's got 2 goals and an assist in the last 3 games, so you might consider readmitting him. I did want to mention a couple other players, the guys who were not mentioned as part of that top power play, which is Kyrou, Holloway, and Neighbors, along with Schenn, who we are ostensibly talking about during this section. That does mean that Buchnevich and Thomas have been relegated to second power play duty. Besides thinking about kind of the position each person or the role that they fill on the power play, which is not an area of expertise for me, I would guess that Neighbors is the first one off that top power play. So unless Buchnevich and Thomas start kind of picking things up power play wise, I don't think Schenn's position there is all that under threat. And hey, who knows? It could be Holloway that goes first instead. Just a little bit about Buchnevich and Thomas, because they've both been a little bit cold lately. Buchnevich just 1 assist in the last 5 games, nothing to show for 9 shots during that stretch. He's been decent, but he has been streaky this season, with a handful of instances of 1 or 0 points, in a 3 or 4 game stretch in there. He's not looking like a point per game guy this season. It does seem like things are getting spread out a little bit more, than we're kind of used to as far as scoring goes in St. Louis. Thomas is also a bit cold, just 2 assists in the last 5 games, but he is shooting a ton, more than 3 shots a game over that stretch, 17 shots. We just have to, sometimes a player has a season and we have to kind of rethink the way that we have defined them previously. Thomas spent years and years as kind of a guy that we expect to dish, and that's about it. Not giving you a whole lot of shots, not giving you goals. Clearly, he has added that element to his game, or he's being asked by his coach to perform differently. So we love to see the shots. Still scoring. I'm not worried about him, even on power play too. I think Thomas is a guy who is gonna, when he has his opportunity to sit at the table, he's gonna eat. So I think that he's not a guy I'm worried about. Whereas Buchnevich, I'm starting to get a little nervous about. I don't want to go too far because again, Neighbors, we called him a snoozer and then he turned out doing all right. But I think that Buchnevich, I'm getting a little concerned about. He has enough points for the season so far that I feel reasonably confident he's worth having there. But if you drafted him as a 75-point guy, I think the ship has probably sailed unless he really picks it up here. All right. Well, it may have negative 25-degree wind chill outside, but I don't even know if that's as cold as Jake DeBrusk. I should have saved that for Brady Tkachuk because obviously he's the colder of the two. But let's talk about him a little bit. I'm not super interested in touching the toxic inter squad drama of the Canucks right now, or intra squad, I should say. But we can at least comment on JDB's struggles here. 0 points in the last 6 games. And if we extend it out to 10 games, we've just got 1 goal and 1 assist. He's averaging just a bit over a shot per game. I'm pretty sure Elon just, I think his jaw just tensed up hearing that horrible number. That's not what DeBrusk fans were getting used to in the fall when he scored 19 points in 19 games between November 2nd and December 12th. 14 of those 19 points were goals. He was shooting the absolute lights out, but that has faded. He's not shooting as much and he's not scoring nearly as much. He's been getting split off the top power play with some frequency over the last few games. It's been JT Miller taking his spot. Other times it's been Besser taking his spot. And the team has scored 2 power play goals over those last 3 games, but they both were with the combination of Besser, Pettersson, Miller, and Garland out there. with Jake DeBrusk on the ice. In fact, they only managed one shot in nearly 4 minutes of power play ice time over the last 3 games. I got to wonder, is this a guy who should still be held? He's just 44% on Yahoo. He lost 3% just yesterday. Still 92% held in Cupful. Are Cupful managers snoozing with DeBrusk, or is the allure of having a player who's out there just about every game, with Pettersson and Besser? Obviously, we know that Pettersson has not had a ton of success this year, but it still seems like an awfully good spot at even strength. I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
I have to agree. It seems like it should be a good spot, and I'd like to see him do more with it. It's not coming together for him in the way we would expect it to be. I mean, he is still currently on pace for over 50 points, but I still think there's something just not clicking there for him. And I'd like to see more of that. I know we said he's still very highly owned in the Cupful, but this might be the time, especially a week like this one where he's playing on all the busy nights, where you don't want to bench him, you want to drop him and pull someone else in. And I would say, if you are going to drop him, huge caveat here, keep him on your watch list. I don't believe this is a cold streak that is going to stick. I think that in a few weeks, Vancouver is going to sort their stuff out, and we are going to see the whole team kind of make a resurgence. And hopefully our accountability will prove me right in a month.
Yeah, where, Trev is always on the lookout here. If you're part of the Discord group, one of the things you get to see is 30 days after a show plays, or the night after a show plays, Trev updates the list with, some of our predictions in there, and then checks in after 30 days have passed, including, how they've scored and what their where they rank among other players in that position, and those types of things. So it keeps us a little honest there. That's just one more perk of getting to be part of the Keeping Karlsson Discord community. And let's talk about one last guy who's on a little hot streak here, kind of on a team that's been on a bit of a hot streak, which has been nice to see. Take us to Utah, down to the second line.
Yeah, so we need to talk about Mattias Macelli over in Utah. As you said, that second line is heating up. We've got Barrett Hayton, we've got Josh Stone, and these guys are starting to click and really come together in this last little bit here. Macelli himself has 3 goals, 1 assist, 11 shots on goal in his last 4 games. So this is a really nice option if you're looking for somebody who fits your schedule, who's just starting up on that hot streak, we hope, and hopefully it just continues to grow. Again, there is a little bit of concern here. He's power play 2, he's not power play 1, and we do know that's going to decrease a little bit of his time. But I think there's a lot to be said here about how well it's clicking and where it's going in just a few short games here.
Yeah, definitely. Again, and the kind of thing that you want to keep an eye on, but we have given Barrett Hayton a hard time, and he has actually had a very nice little run lately. So good for him. He's been on things as well, along with Macelli. Macelli is also a guy that I think of kind of in the Robert Thomas vein as, a distributor and not much of a shooter and scorer, but obviously, 11 shots over 4 games is nearly 3 shots per. He's got 3 goals in there. So a very hot shooting percentage, bound to regress, but is it going to regress right away? I think Doan has been a really nice addition there that has, in some ways, I think allowed Cooley to move up to that top line and be part of that Cooley, Keller, Schmaltz group that we all have been so excited about. In fact, Elon on the Sunday show declared Schmaltz a season-long keeper now that he's added him to his roster. So I'm with him on that, obviously, because I drafted Schmaltz and have held him through some of the lean times early on. And I'm just loving seeing those 3 names come across the screen when we are getting our goal updates. So really enjoying that top line in Utah, both at even strength and on the power play. Let's keep more of it going. But if you can't get your hands on Cooley, Keller, Schmaltz, Macelli, Doan, and Hayton are offering you some good opportunities a little further down the line. So worth taking a check on that second line in Utah. And Elizabeth, that has brought us to the end of our time together here. Thanks so much. It's really been fun. We ended up going a pretty reasonable length. I thought we were doing a little better in terms of keeping it a short shift, but we had lots to talk about here today. Some great analysis. So I thank you for being a big part of that, and look forward to the next time we get to do a show together. And to all of you who joined us, thank you. If you watched us live, you can get access to the live stream. If you are a Keeping Karlsson patron, you can join us at keepingkarlsson.com/patron. Super supporters receive ad-free episodes. And of course, you can interact with Brian, Elon, the Short Shift crew, Trev doing the Accountability Project, all of these folks, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on a very active Discord server. Game day tweets, I've mentioned it a bunch of times throughout the course of today. Shams and Elon run an outstanding site that gives you all of the best information from trusted beat writers on Twitter. You can search team by team or search tweets by player name. So please visit their site and all the great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.